Hey everybody, I'm Faith, and I have Down syndrome. But our podcast is not really about that exactly.
And I'm Andrea. I'm friends with Faith. Our podcast is about conversations and connections.
It's about how we are the same and how we are different.
For each episode, Faith and I interview a different guest. Some of our guests experience intellectual and developmental disabilities, also known as IDD, and some don't. We talk about friendship, family, adulthood, and, when it comes up, disability.
Our podcast is called Everybody In because we are so interested in everybody.
So let's get started. Hello, everyone. I am Andrea Moore, one of your hosts for Everybody In, a podcast conceived and produced by the Wayfaring Band. And I believe it was the Countess of Oxford, Miss Margot Asquith, who said, "There is nothing more perplexing in life than to know at what point you should surrender your intellect to your faith." Yes, I think we should surrender everything to Faith. She is one worth surrendering our hearts, our minds, our souls. And here she is. Hello, darling.
Hello. What's up, everyone? I am Faith Vidrine. I am Andrea's co-host. And thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you for listening, for joining us. We're getting silly in the studio, as always. But we do have a great show today. Who is our guest today, Faith?
Ozzie.
Yes, Ozzie Cabral, the troublemaker, the general malcontent. No, just kidding. But he's a good friend of mine, which is why I get to be so silly about him. But we're really excited to get to know Ozzie. There's a lot to get to know. He has some interesting perspectives and great connections in lots of different communities in town here in Denver. So, Faith, tell us a little bit about the format that you're going to be using to chat with Ozzie.
So he and I are going back and forth between questions. So I'm going to ask him questions, and he's going to ask me some surprise questions.
I hope our listeners are living for the fact that you're up for this every single episode, week after week, that Faith just is ready to take it. She lets her guests surprise her with mystery questions. And that's a risk with somebody like Ozzie. Oh, I know you don't know him that well, but you're going to get to know him better, my darling. Well, I'm really excited to hear what he asks you. I know you're going to ask him your usual questions. So you feeling ready? You feeling warmed up?
I am.
Well, I'm excited to just get in there and make trouble on my own whenever I can, too. So let's do it.
Okay. So, Ozzie, tell me about yourself.
Well, I'm been in Colorado all my life. I work in addiction, mental health, and chronic and acute pain. And I have a lot of animals.
Nice.
Oh, so many more questions. So many more. I hope we're going to get to them. I'm not going to ask them yet. I'm waiting. I promise.
Okay, so let's get started, shall we?
Yeah,
Ozzie?
let's do
Okay.
it.
So my first question, who is your best friend and why are they so special to you?
Wow. Well, I have... The first one that comes to mind is my dog, Luna. She's my best friend. And she's special because she's been through quite a lot with me. And we're just very, very spiritually connected. At the same time, I have a friend, his name is Aubrey, who is very connected to me too. He's about as connected as Luna, and he's kind of like a dog like Luna. And he is a good friend, or special to me, because kind of like Luna, we've gone through quite a lot together, and we're very I don't know, I want to say spiritually connected, just because of our experiences and our discussions and the way that we've grown. Yeah.
Nice.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Please.
Nice. So when you talk about being spiritually connected, what are some of the elements between if we break that down, what does that look like in terms of like how you and your best friend behave, or, without having to necessarily tell us all
Right.
of your experiences, but yeah, what does that actually look like on a day to day? What kind of behaviors?
Understanding, compassion, I think patience. Luna and I have never had a fight. Aubrey and I have never had a fight, believe it or not. And we see the world in the same way, and I think we use each other for protection and guidance.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's cool. That's kind of, I don't know. We've heard a lot of people talk about their best friends, haven't we, Faith? And
Well, especially with dogs.
well,
but
that was just funny
Oh,
because
really?
actually earlier today was, we interviewed our friend Mackenzie, and that was the first time that we heard somebody say their dog
Oh, wow.
as the best friend. And here we were like, oh,
Yeah.
that's so different. And then the first thing out of Ozzie's mouth is that it's his dog too.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
That's
awesome.
really neat.
What kind of dog is she?
She's like a mix. She's a German Shepherd Husky with a dab of wolf in her.
Nice.
Yeah.
Really cool.
She's awesome.
Uh-huh. I bet she's a good girl.
She really is. She pooped in the house the other day.
Yeah, hopefully that your other best friend doesn't do that to you. Well, cool. Faith, are you ready for Ozzie's first surprise question?
Please.
Okay. What in this world are you most connected to?
Can you tell me, what do you mean?
What's most valuable to you in this world?
I think this world is just a beautiful place with everybody who can make a difference, you know? And I just think the world just needs some beautiful people just being who they are. So I think it's like a gift. So,
What do you mean a gift?
well, I mean like a gift, like God will bring this beautiful place of the world, you know, and how people can be, just who they are, like a special gift or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
And so I'll ask a follow up there. So Faith, is this accurate that when you see people being who they are, it makes you feel connected?
Yes.
That you think that's cool when people are able to just be themselves and
Yes. Like right now we're getting to know each other, and having that connection is good. And I like, getting to know people and, to learn about the connections between that. So it's good.
Awesome.
So thank you for bringing that question.
I know. And now I'm going to set the mirror up and make Ozzie answer the question too. Should we do that,
Oh,
Faith?
jeez.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
I'm here to disrupt. So, yeah. What about you, Ozzie? Like, what makes you feel the most connected
To this world?
in the world? Yeah.
I think it's the same thing. People and the good that they're doing in the world. Yeah. Seeing all of that, seeing what people are doing to kind of protect the world or to keep love and goodness in the world is what I get connected to.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if we can go back a little bit, Faith, before we move on to your next question. I really want to understand a little bit better about Ozzie's background and some of the things that he does for his job, and just some of his passions, because I think it'll help kind of give us some context for our conversation. Is that cool?
Yeah.
So, yeah, can you say, so you said that you were involved in addiction and mental health, in the field of addiction and mental health. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that looks like?
Yeah. So what I do is work with people who are struggling in both addiction or mental illness, depression, anxiety, bipolar, different things like that. Teaching them skills to navigate their emotions, the intensity of their illness, the intensity of their disease, trying to build a life worth living and a life that they're connected to, going back, connected to this world in a different way, and that they can live kind of in a peaceful, I guess to live in kind of this sense of peace and connection, right? So they don't have to suffer. Yeah.
So can I ask, is that included for homeless people as well?
I've worked with homeless people, in the past, and they're actually one of my favorite populations for many reasons. I actually started a project once a long time ago. I didn't tell you this, but I have a bunch of pictures, and I started a project called I Exist, and so I would interview homeless people and take their picture and write their story and just interview them to say, what's your story? Where did you come from? Do you have family? Do you have kids? And it was really more to say, I exist. I have a life. I'm real. I'm not just a ghost, walking these streets, because sometimes when you're homeless, you feel like a ghost. And so it was more to say, these people do have a life. They exist. So, the homeless are, I should pick that back up. But
That's a cool project.
Yeah.
You want to share with Ozzie why you were asking about that?
Well, it's because I know my dad is the director of the homeless shelter. And I volunteer once a week.
Awesome.
But sometimes people who are homeless can struggle with that sometimes.
Yes.
Because sometimes they're having a good day, or if they're having a bad day. I think one of the homeless people was being kind of weird. I don't know what it really causes him. He was being weird on me. I was saying, like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And he was repeating himself. I don't know if that was like a mental health or if he was kind of crazy. But for me, I thought he was being rude. But I don't know what the cause of that, like mental health or something, or conditions he was having. So, and that's why I was asking you what you think.
Well, if you thought he was being rude, he was being rude. I'll tell you that much. And people that are homeless, many of them have a lot of mental health issues. And so who knows what was going on with him? He could have been what we say responding to internal stimuli, meaning hearing voices in his head. He could have been having memories and flashbacks. A lot of those homeless people have trauma, and so certain people or certain things or certain situations remind them of things. And so what's wrong with you could have been him like remembering something horrible. So I don't think it had anything to do with you. It was more him, and something was going on in his brain, in his head, that made him rude and mean. And it was just a situation, I think. It's typical. It happens a lot, because those homeless people have a lot of trauma, and they have a lot of mental health issues. They get depressed, they get angry, they get frustrated. They don't know how to deal with their emotions. Many of them could be coming off of alcohol, right? He could have been drunk. He could have been detoxing. There's so many things that could be happening that I think, but for you know that he was being rude, and he was, but who knows why? It was all in his head.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think one thing that's so important, I think, for some listeners who maybe don't have as much experience working with people experiencing homelessness. So I just think it's important to remember that it's a continuum, right? That like most people, I would say probably overwhelmingly, most people do not choose the experience of being isolated from society and living on the streets, and are not wanting to live a life of addiction and desperation, and that those are causal, like things that end up, sometimes if people are struggling already with some mental health issues or addiction issues, then those things can get worse, right? They can get exacerbated and cause things to kind of like the snowball to roll down the hill. And it's like, oh, we lose the car and the relationships and the job, and then eventually the bills pile up, and then maybe can lose some housing, and that all these things really kind of add up, and that it's also really different for each person, which is what Ozzie is saying, is that it's hard to know that particular person, but it could have been a lot of different things. But yeah, I think it's okay sometimes to also just be like, back off, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you are being rude.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, can people like take medicine for depression or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they can. They just need to get in with a doctor or psychiatrist and get seen and get an assessment, and then they can get placed on medications. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Are there other things that people try in addition to medication to manage different
Therapy, talk therapy. They can try a lot of different routes, support groups or church for some people, different spiritual avenues for some people. So yeah, there's a lot of different things they can use.
Okay. It's interesting, though. I do want to just say out loud that it is possible that guy was judging. It is possible that he was judging you about disability.
Yeah.
Right.
It really felt that way.
Yeah.
So.
And it's interesting, like the way that it feels. I guess it's a reminder to me that I'm like, as human beings, we will attack each other. We will hurt each other. Like we can have the experience of, let's say, experiencing homelessness, right? Like being down and out and really struggling and having a tough time and still have a judgment towards someone with a disability. Or we can have a disability and still be racist and make a racist comment. Mm-hmm. And we can, that's called intersectionality, when we have multiple things happening all at the same time. And it may have been that he was being rude to you about your disability, or like Ozzie said, it might have had nothing to do with that, and it might have been just about him.
Well, maybe, because when he came back to get some clothes from me, he was like saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that," and I was like, "Okay," but really confusing. Mm-hmm. Like he didn't have to, do that, because it felt like he was judging me, and I just got my feelings hurt for no reason.
In moments like that, Faith, what are some of the things that you can do?
Well, can you tell me what you mean about that?
Yeah, like if you're feeling like that guy was rude to you, and that's happened before, right? So it's like if you were going to give advice to somebody who maybe also had a disability, but who someone was being rude to them, do you have any advice for like how to protect yourself or stand up for yourself and be a self-advocate?
Well, yes, I will be. It would be nice if I did step up or something. I would say, like, you can't just, judge people because of who they are, and it's not right. Mm-hmm. And what you said was very hurtful, and it felt like he was judging me, and that really hurt me, because one of my friends was, at the door, and he was listening, and he was like, he was going to say something as well, of saying that is not okay,
So I heard you like using your own words to stand up for yourself.
Yeah, I
would. Or
asking
a friend for help.
Yeah. And he was like right there, and he was going to say something to him, but I would, just tell him to not do that,
Yeah.
But usually everybody is so nice and saying, "You're awesome."
Yeah.
So, and that's always nice, But there's confusing between being nice or confusing what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with that. So.
You still went back though. Do you think it's like when a
Well, yeah,
a bad
I wanted to go back.
Yeah.
And like he was being really he was apologizing to me, and I was saying, "Okay, so if you were saying what's wrong with you and you came back and you apologized to me, that's not okay." It's just not right.
Did the apology make you feel better about it at all?
Well, just confusing. You know, like he said something and he was repeating himself. And he came back and apologized. And that was fine. It was just confusing because you can't just, just judge me like that. And he can't just apologize of saying, oh, I'm sorry if I'm being judgeful. You know, I think it's not okay. Not for me.
It's not good enough to just say you're sorry.
Yeah, it's not good enough.
Okay.
You know, when he's apologizing, it feels like for me it's not good enough for me. And so that's
Good
why
for you.
Yeah, thank you.
That's like, talk about a boundary, right? That's awesome.
She's like, nope.
Well, what about you? I mean, Ozzie, this is an interesting conversation about like when apologies aren't enough. I mean, do you have any experiences, or does that remind you anything of being judged, or?
Apologies aren't enough. Sometimes she's right.
It's not good enough. Seriously. I wanted to tell him that, but it's not good enough.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we got to go through our own process, right?
Well,
so
yeah.
we've got to be angry, because anger isn't a bad thing. Sometimes it protects us, right? It makes us like do something different, or it makes us keep some walls up and be defensive when we know we could be hurt. So it's not a bad thing to be angry. I think it's just how we act on it, I think. But sometimes apologies, like, they're words, they're not actions, and sometimes there's not true meaning behind them. So
that's what I was wondering about. So.
Yeah. It's fine. It's fine if apology isn't enough. I mean, good for you.
Well, I really felt like I wanted to tell him that, but, I just don't want to confuse him or something. So.
Well, he's already confused. Sounds like so.
Well, and sometimes we learn a lesson and we get to apply it next time.
Well, yeah. And what I was going to say, I feel sorry for him because it's no fun to be homeless.
No, so the universe kind of will, it's pretty sad to say, but he'll probably be out there on the street and somebody will say, what's wrong with you, right?
Yeah.
So the universe has a way of kind of teaching everybody lessons for what they did. So you just got to let it go and let the universe take care of it.
Right. And that's what I did. So.
Yeah. Well, are you ready to ask Ozzie your second question?
Yeah, I want to let this go. So. So I know somebody needs some help sometimes, but what do you need help with?
Cleaning my room.
Okay.
What do I need? I mean, I really do need help cleaning my room because I really need to clean my room.
Good.
I think, geez, that's a good question because I tend to not think about what I need help. I tend to just keep moving forward. But I guess I would need help in remembering to slow down and remembering to say no sometimes. So I need help remembering. Yeah.
So like reminders.
Yes.
Got it.
And why do you need help slowing down?
Because I tend to take on too much. I tend to I was just asked to get into another book project, which I said yes. I was asked to help somebody find some grants. I said yes. Like, I don't have time for any of that. So,
yeah,
I don't know when to say no. So I need a reminder to say, listen, when are you going to fit this in? Yeah.
What are some of the things that you need help with, Faith?
Well, there's some help I need help with. Well, just like going clothes shopping or something. If it's going to be like the right price or if it's not too expensive. So that's why I have my sister to help me with that. So, but there's so many things I need some help with, but some stuff I can do by myself. So, yeah.
A lot of like
Can
life
you clean
skills.
your room?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry?
Can you clean your room? Because I can't.
Yes, I can.
So you could
Good for you. You're
technically,
better
you could
than
help
me.
Ozzie. Yeah, you could help Ozzie with that. And then
Give me some tips.
he's happy to tell you if clothes are too expensive. And let me give you a clue. He's going to say it's all too expensive because Ozzie has just pretty simple tastes.
Yes, I do. Yep.
No designer labels on
Nothing.
this one. No. Well, if it's all right, let's take a short break. And then when we come back after the break, let's hear a little bit more about Ozzie's final surprise question.
Okay.
And maybe we'll also dig in a little bit to, I'm sure if you're interested, Faith, we can learn a little bit about the wolf sanctuary that Ozzie's involved with and some other stuff. Sound like a plan?
Yeah.
All right, we'll be right back. The Wayfaring Band is not a rock and roll band, are we, Faith?
Mm-mm.
So what type of band are we?
We are a band of travelers.
Travelers, right. So the Wayfaring Band takes original, transformative adventures that include adults with and without cognitive and developmental disabilities. But anybody can come on a trip with us, right, Faith?
Yes.
Like who?
Everybody.
Like everybody.
Yes.
Well, as long as they're a grown-up.
Yes.
They have to be a grown-up because we work with adults.
Well, an adult, everybody.
An adult everybody. So if you're an adult everybody, you're welcome to join the Wayfaring Band on tour. If you're a caregiver, a student, a teacher, a professional, an activist, an interested adult everybody community member, all of you are welcome to join the Wayfaring Band on tour and experience our culture of inclusion firsthand. Be a part of it. How can they learn more, Faith?
Learn more at www.thewayfaringband.com.
All right, welcome back from the break. We are back. We are back in action. Are we back in action, Faith?
Yes.
She's like, you're speaking too fast for me, Andrea. I need you to chill out. I'm back in action. Ozzie, are you back in action?
I'm back.
All right, we're all back. Okay, so Faith, what have we learned so far about Ozzie? You feel like you've learned a few new things about this person?
I think so.
So come a little closer, darling, and then tell me some of the things that tell me what you remember from our conversation so far. What's sticking out to you about what Ozzie has been saying? Some of the stuff we talked about, homelessness, and we talked about people needing help.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about needing to clean our rooms. We talked about his best friends, right? His dog Luna and his friend Aubrey. Were some of those things that
connections, I think.
Some connections, yep, right? About what makes you feel connected to the world.
Yes.
Right on. So before we go into Ozzie's fourth question and Ozzie's second surprise question for you, I wanted just to ask a little bit, because I'm not sure if you know this, but I'm curious about what you're going to think, Faith, about what Ozzie's up to with his new nonprofit called Song of the Wolf. And I want to see if Ozzie wants to talk about it because, and I'm telling you the secret of why, is I recently talked to one of the people he's collaborating with on this project, and Marianne, said that she's really interested in partnering with the Wayfaring Band for some of our members to come up and visit their wolf
That would be awesome.
sanctuary. So Faith, let's have Ozzie explain a little bit about that if you don't mind, and then we can kind of take that back to some of our friends and see if this sounds like a cool fit. Does that work?
Sure.
So please, Ozzie, would tell us about Song of the Wolf a little bit.
Okay, so Song of the Wolf Healing Center is a rescue for abandoned, neglected, abused, traumatized animals, wolf hybrids and wolves. They have to have, our criteria is they have to be at least 80% wolf content, so meaning that they have to be more wolf than dog, and more than just half and half. They have to have a lot of content for wolves, because many of the rescues and sanctuaries will take lower content animals, and then when the higher contents need a home, there's no placement for them. They're the ones that get euthanized, and they're the ones that need it the most. 'Cause some of these lower content animals can get rehomed and adopted out. So what we do, though, is I know that there's medicine in the wolf, meaning that there's healing power and goodness, I guess, within these animals, and what we want to do is we want to collaborate and pair with people that are going through addiction, through mental health, high-risk youth, so kids that are kind of struggling about who they are in the world, any cognitive and emotional difficulties, people that are going through that, just to come down, visit, sit still, and come see these animals and get some of this medicine that you can carry kind of in your heart and in your life, and hopefully it makes a difference, and hopefully it heals a little bit. So yeah, that's kind of us and us sharing some medicine.
That's interesting. Thank you for sharing that with me, because I would love to support that way.
Awesome.
So.
Yeah.
You'd imagine that you'd want to go and check out the sanctuary, Faith?
Yes.
And Ozzie, tell us a little bit more about when you say medicine. Is the medicine of the wolf the same for everyone, or is it different? Or, what's your experience with that?
Well, so think about medicine. Somebody takes in a specific med, it's going to act differently within your body, right? It has kind of similar properties, but people react to it differently. So I think that's the same thing, that there's these animals hold specific I don't know what other word to use other than medicine, but they hold specific qualities or energies or goodness or whatever that will interact with each individual differently. But there's still healing there. I mean, that's the goal of all medicine, right, is healing. So you get some kind of healing, health, help, and some happiness that comes out of that.
And what are some of the interactions that you've witnessed? Like, what kind of transformation takes place in that environment?
Well, I've seen a lady who had a lot of trauma sit with the animals, start crying when one of the female animals came and scent rubbed her and kind of just laid with her, which was really interesting because they're usually kind of worried about people. But this particular person, this female wolf, came and it really put her head on her shoulder and stayed with her. And I think she needed that support, or to know that, holy crap, this animal, this wild animal that can kill me, is showing me some kindness, because they were both traumatized. Do you think it helps
people? Yeah, that's what's interesting. So because it's a sanctuary for these wolves. So these are not wolves who are having the experience of living the wolf life out in the wild, right?
Yeah, they all have stories.
And is that your interpretation of that sort of, that there's an affinity there, or a recognition?
Yeah, I think so, because they're very intuitive. I mean, these animals are very, very intuitive. They've been around for thousands and thousands of years, and they carry knowledge, I think, and connection in a whole different way than humans do. And so we need them. They bring a balance in a way. I've seen the animals shy away from people that circle people that have had like very narcissistic or anger, or until they can figure out how to let go of that anger or how to let go of themselves. So they interact with you in I don't know, in a whole different way. They sense you.
And I imagine, as you're describing it, it seems to me that there's a possibility for a human, a person, to kind of, especially somebody maybe from the city, or like you said, somebody who has experienced trauma and, who maybe is feeling more isolated or broken away. I don't know. I'm just imagining that there's like a sense of being a part of the world, like the whole ecosystem. And I hear a lot about this. I mean, even the guest we were talking with earlier was talking about having a service animal and sort of the benefit of the relationship of her service dog in her life. Can you share with us a little bit about just your relationship with animals in general? Like, how did it come about that you have these high content
animals?
Wolves? Yeah.
Well, I've had wolf dogs as pets. They're my favorite animals. I mean, kind of really going back, my father's side is Huichol native, and the Huichols believe that they're descendants of the wolves. And so I think I've always had this connection to them. I didn't know that they believed they were descendants until later in life, but
after you were already involved with wolves.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Afterwards, then my aunt told me about that, and so so that was really interesting because she said, that we're descendants, and so I think I was just, I don't know. I've been called to a lot of things in life, so this is just one of the things that the universe is putting in front of me, and this is where I'm supposed to be right now.
So, Faith, what do you think about that? So I want to go back and just kind of connect some of the dots that we were just talking about. Did you hear what we were saying about Ozzie's kind of ancestors believing that they're descendants of the wolves, meaning that they believe that the wolves are their own ancestors? Did you hear that part? So part of Ozzie's family is Huichol, which is the name of a tribe in Mexico. And there's an indigenous group of people to the Americas, to the continents that we now call the Americas. And so have you ever heard about that kind of thing before, where people believing that their wolves are their relations?
Relatives. She's like, he's nuts.
That's not what I think.
Yeah. What do you think about, what do you think about that?
Well, talking about wolves, did I hear about you saying abusing or something?
No, some of them have been abused.
Some of them.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about trauma.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They've gone through, they end up in rescues and sanctuaries because they've had bad experiences growing up or living in bad conditions.
Because every time when I think of that, it's really not okay, for abusing. But definitely with animals, or like any kind of animals, or wolves, I think they're like a beautiful creature, You
feel connected to that?
I do, because I never seen a wolf before, but that's why it's very interesting for me, to see what they are, and everything what you said, having a good thing in their hearts, and I want to make a difference with that too, so much in my life. Like I want to bring the good into the wolves as well, like any kind of animals, but definitely with wolves. So I think it's very just a beautiful thing, because they're just, they're just wolves, because I think, well, that's all I know about that.
So when you're talking about feeling connected and sort of that it makes you upset to think about the wolves being abused, just like it makes you upset to think about people being abused. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It reminds me of what we talk about a lot in the Wayfaring Band, which is mutual aid, which is I help you, you help me, right? And so the humans who are visiting with the wolves are obviously getting, like Ozzie said, the wolf medicine, right? They're getting that connection with something.
And healing.
Yeah, and the healing of like that, healing that bond.
And
the wolves are getting something too.
Yeah.
Right? The wolves are getting a safe place to live and to be wolves, not have to be pets necessarily, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think for hearing that word of healing, I think it's very healing for me to hear that for the first time. And I think that's great. And I definitely want to make a difference about the wolves. So.
Yeah, and I guess when I was asking you, Faith, about what you think about this idea of like people having animals as their ancestors, I think what I notice is...
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm sorry. But I think I really want to learn more about the wolves.
Yeah.
And maybe, I can do something
Well, and and maybe we can go, right? And we can go and meet the wolves and get more involved. And
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting how in, Western culture and especially kind of the descendants from Europe, Western culture, like the colonizing culture, there's something glib almost, or sort of, we think it's kind of silly, this idea of like being like, I think everybody's like, oh, I like animals, I like dogs and cats, but like this deeper idea of being truly relatives. Yeah.
Connected.
I mean, that's like a different
They're
word.
us.
You talk about being relatives of the wolves. Yeah. That's not just the same
It's
as
the
just,
wolf nation.
Right.
I mean, it's, there's the people nation, there's the wolf nation, there's the eagle nation, there's the elephant nation. They're all nations that we need to honor and respect because they are us. We're connected to them. We are related. We're in the animal kingdom, right?
And so Faith, when earlier this year, Faith and I had an opportunity to attend a Sundance ceremony. And so
awesome.
we are not talking about the film festival, are we? No, we are talking about a true Native American Sundance ceremony. Sorry, not a festival, a ceremony. It's a sacred ceremony. And we were down in Arizona, right? We went down to Casablanca, Arizona, and attended that ceremony as some guests of some friends. And actually, Faith, some of the people we met were from the Huichol Nation, which is the same nation that part of Ozzie's family is from, and that's the Wolf Nation. So you probably did meet some people who have that connection, and it is something I think we can all learn more about.
Yeah.
You know how we always ask that question about when we interview when we interview people on the podcast who experience a disability, one of the questions that we ask, and we do this on tour with the Wayfaring Band too, right? We always do this, is we say, if you could be any animal other than a human, what animal would you be? And I think sometimes people hear that question and it seems sort of like, wah, wah, like sort of silly or whatever. But really, like, and it's not about spirit animals, because that's a different thing. That's a different, spirit animals are real things that some groups of people practice. And so that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a connection between us as individuals with animals and being a part of this global ecosystem of living things, right? So Faith, do you want to share with Ozzie the connection that you feel, the animal that you always feel connected to?
Yes. So my birth sign is a Leo. So a Leo is like a lion. Usually what I notice about lions going like to be outside, so like they're warm-blooded. I'm also warm-blooded because I was born in the summer. And also they're kind of special kind of lions, how they can feel, like being generous to people, or bringing the love or something, and I just feel so connected with the Leos, and I think I have that kind of gift because of the Leo, and that's what I know about Leos. So, because I know you are, right?
I'm a Leo, but I think it's interesting because when you talk about it, you have a deep connection to the lion. I am a Leo, but I have other connections. I think I feel more connected to, whenever I play this game, I always say the phoenix, which is a mythical animal, of course. But that's actually by design a little bit for me. I think we're living in a time where, I don't know, we're not really allowed to talk about being magic in a real way. It's like, oh, Harry Potter way. You're talking about Harry Potter. I think if I had been born, a couple, 1,500 years ago, I would have been a priestess probably on the side of a lake somewhere in the British Isles. I think that awesome. Probably would have been, if I had a former life, I may have been the Lady of the Lake at one point. But, so something about the mythology of the phoenix is actually I feel really connected to that. But on this continent, I feel really connected to the buffalo.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can definitely see you have lion medicine. You do have lion.
Thank you.
Yes.
But it's neat. And I think, Faith, it sounds like it could be a really good fit for some of our friends from the Wayfaring Band to go up and visit. If other listeners are interested in learning more, is Song of the Wolf Healing Center open to the public?
It is. They, just go onto our Facebook page. Unfortunately, I haven't updated our website very much, but our Facebook page is very updated.
This is the bane of busy
there.
people. I mean, in the Wayfaring Band, we're in the middle of a website situation ourselves. It just, it's
bad.
It's hard to do the work and to showcase the work at the same time
Right.
when we're out there really doing the work. But so the Facebook page, so if they look on Facebook and search Song of the Wolf Healing Center, they'll find you.
Yep.
Okay, and then can
there's
message
a number
you.
there and
and
can either message or call.
Right on.
Yep.
And schedule a time to come and visit. And as a reminder, I mean, Song of the Wolf is a newer nonprofit. And one thing I've noticed about them is that they're so deeply, deeply generous, and they go kind of bend over backwards to allow people to connect with their community. But I encourage people who might want to reach out to them to really think about just the realities of going up to the mountains and visiting and the human impact on these fragile ecosystems. Yes. And make a financial donation, give a gift of funds, because they will spend it really wisely. They know where to get the meat for the animals and where to get the things that the animals need. And I just encourage everyone to make financial gifts to charitable organizations, because I think give them a chance to spend their own money the way that they want to spend it. It's a good thing to do when it comes to philanthropy. So, well, thanks, Ozzie, for sharing all about that. That's really exciting. I'm really looking forward to doing that. I think it'd be fun for us to put a group together. What do you think, Faith?
I think so,
Should
too.
do that? Okay,
yes.
Cool. Should we let Ozzie ask his final question?
Please.
All right.
Well, I want to know, how old were you when you knew you had Down syndrome, and how did you make sense of that?
Okay. I think I was a baby, because I also have a hard time of breathing, but for having Down syndrome, it's sometimes it's hard, but sometimes it can be how we always say, there's a difference between knowing what the same and what's the difference.
Mm-hmm. That some things are the same and some things are different.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I feel sometimes because of my disability. But sometimes having Down syndrome is really just a part of me. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what God created me. God created me to have Down syndrome. Thank you for asking that question.
Thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm. And if I can actually, I'm going to ask you a little bit of a different way.
Yes.
Is that
please.
okay?
Yes.
So do you remember when you were maybe in elementary school, do you have a memory of remembering thinking, wait a minute, maybe I'm different than the other kids? Did you ever feel different? Yeah. Or did you always feel the same? In terms of Down syndrome, did you ever be oh, not everyone has Down syndrome? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it really does felt like I was the only person who has Down syndrome.
And when did you figure out that you were the only one you knew?
Yeah.
It did feel like I was different from other kids.
At school, were you in a different class, or in were there other types of classes that
can I mention about high school?
Yeah.
Sure.
So for having a disability is one of my classrooms, I was with my friends who has a disability, and it did make me different a little bit. But sometimes I always keep saying it, but it really feels like I'm mad at God for creating me to have a disability.
And we've talked about this kind of a lot, so I'm going to ask you.
I know.
No, I'm not saying let's stop. I'm saying I want to ask you something new about it.
That's fine.
Because is high school the first time that you felt mad at God?
Yes.
Because I've heard you say that before, but did you feel mad at God in middle school, or was it high school that started to happen?
Well, in middle school, because I was part of a special ed. So for a special ed, it did make me feel different. Being in the pathways made me feel kind of different.
And that's a program?
Yeah, it is. And especially for any programs I'm a part of, does make me kind of different. Like, I know a lot of my friends who has a disability, but I always wonder, why can I have friends without a disability? You know? It's just some people keep saying to me, like, when I see you, you really don't have a disability. So when I talk to people, they'll say, I don't think you have a disability, because you know what we can talk about. So that's what I know. Because of me. But in middle school, it did make me feel like I was different.
Did you feel different in elementary school?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Harder to remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
So middle school was kind of when you started feeling different.
Yeah.
But do you think that your parents were ever easier on you, or that you had special rules, or do you feel like you and your brother and your sisters all had the same rules no matter what?
What do you mean about that?
Like, sometimes parents, if they have a kid with a disability, they're easier maybe on the kid who has a disability, and other parents, and I think I know the answer, which is kind of why I'm asking you, because I know your parents and I know that they're kind of rock and roll. They're like a little bit, I have a feeling that you were kind of just treated like the same as your brother and your sisters, that you kind of all,
well, yeah.
you had the same rules in the house, same expectations. That you, I mean, that's like what I've observed. Do you feel like that's true from the inside, that it was like that you and Marina and, you know, and Maggie and what's your brother's name?
Joe.
Why have I not met Joe? We need to deal with this.
I always wondered. I always wondered.
We need to deal with this. Okay. But
Seriously,
do you feel like the
Andrea.
rules were the same for all of you?
Can you say that one more time?
Do you feel like the rules? So like the rules in the house could be like, you have to come home straight after school. You can't go out after dark. You have to finish your homework. You have to clean up in the kitchen. Chores.
Yes.
Did you have all that stuff the same as your brother and sisters?
Yes, yes. It's like after school, they didn't have to tell me to clean, because I already knew I need to clean. So
they're really good. They got her young. They got her before she even realized that she was being had.
Yes.
Nice work. I have to
so
say.
they didn't have to tell me.
Hats off to Heather and Tom. Well done.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, very cool.
So,
Faith, do you have any final questions for Ozzie before we wrap up? It's okay. You can go off book. We're already finished with all of our real questions.
okay.
Any follow-ups or anything else you want to know about Ozzie?
I wish I knew, but I don't think I do.
I can't think of anything right now.
I'm sorry.
No, well, you know,
No, it's totally
you'll see
okay.
him again. Hopefully, we'll get up to Song of the Wolf Healing Center
Yes.
and
It'd be great.
Yes.
get to check in more. Ozzie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
This was
That
really
fun.
cool and fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
And you did great, by the way.
Thanks.
Leave you with a little vote of confidence for Faith.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, and ta-ta for now.
Peace out.
Everybody In is sound engineered by Karen Hibner with original music by The Dosage. It is produced by The Wayfaring Band, a Denver-based 501c3 nonprofit specializing in life skills and leadership training through travel for adults with and without disabilities. Be sure to rate us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Ta-ta for now.